Good morning, friends, and welcome to this edition of Anti-Doping course brought to you by NPTEL and IIT Madras. So, this is the third week, lecture 1. I'm Professor Dobson Dominic, and I'm a sports medicine physician. So, today we are going to look into anti-doping rules violation as per the World Anti-Doping Agency Code. So, what is in this third week, we will look into what are the different anti-doping rules violations by not only the athletes but also by the athlete support staff. That is going to be our primary lecture today. The other lectures for the coming days in this week are athlete doping rule violation. What are the 11 articles in WADA code? What are the rights and responsibilities of athletes? What are the common anti-doping rules violation scenarios? And in the last lecture, we will also look into what are the prevention strategies followed by the World Anti-Doping Agency and also the national anti-doping organizations. So, in this lecture today, we are going to look into what is anti-doping rules violations, the introduction to it, the different 11 anti-doping rule violations, what are the athlete support personnel violation rules, and we will conclude with some take-home messages. Now, what is ADRV or athlete doping rule violation? Presence of a prohibited substance or its metabolites in an athlete sample, detection of a prohibited substance or its markers or metabolites in a sample provided by the athlete, or 2. Attempted use of a prohibited substance or prohibited method. Not only presence of a prohibited substance or method in the sample, but use or attempted use. So, the use of any banned substance or method or attempting to use even one without a positive test, need not have a positive test, but the athlete got caught trying to use a prohibited substance or a method. So, all this constitutes athlete doping rule violations. Now, the definition according to WADA code is an anti-doping rule violation occurs when an athlete or an associated support staff, athlete personnel breaches one or more of the World Anti-Doping Code articles. What are the articles? WADA code articles are athlete doping rule violations which cover a wide range of violations including presence of prohibited substance, tampering with doping controls and much more. So, broadly athlete doping rule violations are grouped into two groups. One is analytical, where we get a positive drug test, or B2 non-analytical, where athlete refuses to submit a sample. Okay, so these are two anti-doping rule violations. What are the explanation and definition an athlete can give in case that he is caught with ADRVs or athlete doping rule violation? One, he will have some genuine medical reasons where he is granted a valid TUE. He might not have any case, no case to answer, and at this point the cases are closed at the result management level, only exemption being athletes with a genuine therapeutic use exemption. No sanction, that means cases in which athlete was exonerated following the conclusion of a disciplinary proceedings. Pending. Pending means cases that have yet not been finalized following either the conclusion of disciplinary proceedings is not over or the result management level is still not finished. And finally, athlete gets sanctioned with ADRV or athlete doping rule violations, cases for which a final decision has been given and a sanction, that is a reprimand or a period of ineligibility, was imposed on the athlete following the conclusion of a disciplinary proceeding. So, these are the steps by which finally an ADRV is reached or arrived. Now, according to World Anti-Doping Code 2021, there are a total of 11 anti-doping rule violations listed in the code. All 11 of the anti-doping rule violations are applicable to the athlete. Only 7 of them are applicable to the athlete support personnel, like a physiotherapist or a doctor or a coach or a trainer. Now, broadly we look into what are the 11 anti-doping rule violation. Presence of a banned substance, the ban can go up to 4 years, applies only to athletes here. 2, usage of a banned substance, ban can go for 4 years, applies again only to athlete. Third is the evasion, refusal or failure to give samples, ban again up to 4 years and applies only to athletes. 4 is whereabouts failure, where the athlete fails to give where he is going, where he is training. The ban is again up to 2 years and applies only to athletes. The 5th one is tampering or attempted tampering. Ban is up to 4 years, applies to athletes, athlete supports personnel and other persons. The 6th one is possession of a prohibited substance or a prohibited method. Ban again up to 4 years, applies to athletes and athlete support staff. 7th one is trafficking. Ban up to 4 years to lifetime, applies to athletes, athlete support staff and other persons. The 8th one is administration or attempted administration. Ban is up to 4 years to a lifetime, applies to both athletes and athlete support staff. The 9th one is complicity or attempted complicity, where the ban is up to 2 years, applies to athlete and the support staff. 10th one is a prohibited association, where the athlete is in touch with prohibited personnel. Ban is again up to 2 years and applies both to athletes and the athlete staff. The newer launched 11th ADRV is the Act to discourage or retaliate against reporting authorities. The ban is 2 years up to a lifetime, applies to both athlete and the athlete support staff. We will be looking into all 11 anti-doping rule violation in detail in the subsequent lectures. One new ADRV was proposed to the new 2021 World Anti-Doping Code, that is 11th ADRV, where some bans, aggravating circumstances like bans can increase up to a further 2 years in certain circumstances like the use of multiple prohibited substance. Ban is reduced when recreational athletes and protected persons increase flexibility on bans for those considered as recreational athletes and not actually professional athletes. Substance of abuse, these substances are banned in competition only. Suppose an athlete is caught with some substances which are supposed to be taken only during competition, then in these cases a shorter bans can be given. Some of the highest incidents of ADRVs which are seen in sports is weightlifting, more than 89 anti-doping rule violations, athletics more than 132 anti-doping rule violations, cycling more than 88 anti-doping rule violations. This is the 2020 data. Pretty much same over the subsequent years also. Even in aquatics, football, mixed martial arts, bodybuilding, boxing, powerlifting, anti-doping rule violations are being noted rampantly. What about ADRVs by gender? Very clearly, ADRVs has been much more noted in male athletes compared to female athletes, about 76% compared to 24%, again a 2021 data. Analysis of this gender discrepancy shows there is a gender disparity reflecting a trend in specific sports with higher male participation in certain types of doping. Okay, say example of anabolic androgenic steroids are much more misused for PED or performance enhancement by the male athletes compared to female athletes. So, the ADRV is much more seen in males compared to female athletes. Now, looking into the athlete support personnel violation, who are they? The athlete support personnel can include coaches, trainers, medical staff like a traveling sports medicine doctor, traveling physiotherapist, can even be a masser, can even be a nutritionist, a dietitian, sports nutritionist, can also be a psychologist, anybody who has given a banned substance or help them with a banned method. 2020 reports suggest that more than 25 athlete support personnel were involved in athlete doping rule violation. You need to note that the support personnel play a very crucial role in athlete anti-doping compliance according to WADA, and they are held to the same standard as athletes. So, we looked into the 11 anti-doping rule violations, out of which 7 applies also to the support staff or the support personnel. Now, what are there are several steps to reduce or prevent anti-doping rule violations. WADA has conceptualized several strategies whereby they increase the dose testing. They employ novel strategies like athlete biological passport, where athletes are tested both in competition and outside competition. Constant education programs are given to athletes and the support staff, and preventive measures like educating the athlete and support staff about what are the current prohibited substances and the different testing procedures are given by both National Anti-Doping Agency and also the WADA. Prevention and education are essential in reducing anti-doping rule violations. So, to conclude, the take-home message will be anti-doping rule violations undermine fair competition in sports. Most violations involve prohibited substance use. Non-analytical violations like tampering also are pretty significant. The main sports which are affected by ADRVs are weightlifting, athletics and cycling. Enhanced testing and education are key to preventing doping. Collective action is essential for promoting clean sport. Support staff or support personnel like coaches, athletic trainers, physiotherapists, traveling sports medicine doctors play a very important role in doping violations, and they need to be held accountable if the athlete is caught. Emerging threats like gene doping require a constant vigilance by both national anti-doping agencies and also by WADA. Again, the take-home message being several drugs and methods have been used in doping for the purpose of sports performance enhancement, prevalent in all sporting competition at all levels. All methods used banned by WADA are deleterious to athletes' health. Regulation and testing by WADA and IOC aim to decrease the incidence of doping and eliminates its use in sport. So, these are the references for today's lecture. Predominantly, you need to look into World Anti-Doping Code 2021, the current list of prohibited substances 2024 and 2025. Also, the National Anti-Doping Rules of 2021 and 2022 has to be read thoroughly. Thank you for the patient listening. Jai Hind.